what is shadow work?
Yeah.
For them.
The thing that always like did it, the quote that opened me up the most to it was it's like Carl Jung's is like a tree's leaves can't touch heavens unless its roots touch hell. And it's like
Mm.
you can like it's like you can't experience pure bliss unless you know the depths of darkness as well. Like where so many people are striving for so much of this happiness, so much of this positivity, but they're not willing to drop into the darkness. They're afraid of the dark emotions, the fears that come up. They're afraid of when they react in these really unhealthy, wounded aspects of themselves, when they show up as the wounded masculine or wounded feminine within themselves, and that scares the shit out of them. And that's where so many people turn to like drugs and alcohol and different stuff, because that numbs them out from actually experiencing a lot of them sensations. But
Mm.
it's when we actually allow us to shine light on our shadows and like ask ourselves like, why is there shadow there? Like what is coming up? Where are we wounded? Where are we hurt? That has caused us to fall into these shadows of ourselves, fall into these dark sides of ourselves, and like act in these ways. Like that's where a lot of like our actual healing can really come from. Because I know for me is like so much of my shadow stuff was coming from like I had a lot of I, I never knew how to express anger, but I held a lot of anger and frustration within myself. So like if stuff was coming up really heavy for me, like I would just suppress everything down and just push everything down. And as I pushed everything down, it would push people away from me. And like that was the only way I knew how to deal with my shit. But that was because I didn't realize there was a lot of suppressed anger there. And like it wasn't until I actually looked into it, it's like where in my life, has that come from? Where from a childhood, from a past has a lot of that come from? And why is that there? And what can it do to move through that? And like actually see the gifts that have come from that. So then I'm able to start moving through that and changing how I respond in them situations. And that was like a massive, like, yeah, like so much lessons, but like that was like the really hard work. That's where it's really tough, delving into a lot of our pain to uncover a lot of our actual truths within that.
Wow. I think listening to you, I'm kind of reflecting on my own journey with anger. It's been a constant. It's been very kind of suppressed, bottled up, and really not really having a healthy way to actually express this, because it's such a big energy that it's very difficult to channel it properly, right? Obviously in the gym, and I started doing jiu-jitsu and previously a little bit of boxing and kickboxing, but other than that, it's been very difficult for me to express it. And I think maybe I'm overgeneralizing here, but I think a lot of men actually dealing with something similar, even though maybe they don't want to admit that it's anger, and maybe they're afraid. And do you think that I think there is a stigma? I'm actually curious to hear your perspective on this as well. Do you think there is a stigma with anger being like labeled as a bad feeling? And
definitely. Like as you're speaking there, like that was one of the things. Like so many of us are afraid of anger because when we look at anger, we only see the really unhealthy projections of that anger. Like straight away, like if you think of anger, what comes to mind? Like you think of like real aggression, like real like that fight,
rage,
like that hurt, that rage, that hurt that comes with it. That's where it's like an uncontrollable anger. And if you don't accept that anger is present in your body, if you don't see that and be able to kind of work with the anger within your body, it's going to come out in some shape or form, be it in fits of rage or passive aggressiveness, or you completely push it down to push everyone away. Like it's one of them things. Like if we don't deal with our shadows there then and there how they are, they're going to come out in some shape or form to hurt us or hurt the people closest to us in different ways. So like it's like, yeah, like it's so much of it is like if we have like a really unhealthy or if we're really fearsome of anger, it's like looking, it's like why? It's like what is your experiences? What is your story around anger? And like why are you afraid of it? Rather than getting that anger, like if we deal with anger in a really healthy way, we can channel that into so much creativity and so much potential for ourselves as well, because we are taking control of it. We are leading with that, and like we're harnessing that for the greater good. Rather than allowing that just to pop out because we're not able to regulate it.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually speaking to a guy I'm working with right now. His name is Michael Gay, and he's kind of saying that, you know, for really to create anything, you really need access to this primal anger energy, but you need to obviously hone it and control it rather than just kind of letting it loose and, you know, kind of showing the shadow side of what people are normally probably accustomed to when they hear the word anger, and they, you know, they imagine people, men yelling at each other, or, you know, getting physical, etc., etc. Wow. And how normally would you channel that? Would it be in a group setting? Would it be in a one-to-one environment? If people were kind of listening, thinking, oh shit, like maybe I have something in this and I'm curious to kind of explore it, how would someone do something? You know, because it's quite a big thing, right? Where would they start?
Yeah, it's like with that sort of stuff, it's different for everyone with it. But like for me personally, the way I found like I worked with it is like because I was always very fearful of anger. I was like, oh, I'm not an angry person. It's like I'm all good. I'm nice and chill. But I'm. It's like when
Everybody
it was
says
like,
that.
yeah, I was like, actually, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of frustration that builds up. That's my default. Is when stuff comes up, when I feel that, it's like I push it all down. So like for me, it was like I went through a period. I was like, right, I actually need to start working with this and shedding some light onto that. So I started creating like a practice of, like, it's just that primal screaming, that primal activation of it to allow myself to actually tap into that in a safe space. So for me, like some of that would include like if I felt the anger coming up, like instead of pushing it down and suppressing it, is like I'd go down to the room and I would allow that anger to come out. So it's like I'd tap into that primal energy in myself. I could put on some like real heavy music, like be it like real like Nordic Viking kind of like that primal music.
Primal,
It's just
yeah.
yeah, it gets into you, and like as soon as you'd feel that coming up, just like allow myself to breathe with that, allow myself to feel that energy coming up and feel the fucking power behind that. But then would allow myself to express that. So like with that, it might be like literally like getting a pillow and like screaming and beating into a pillow. Like what, however that might be, is like literally just allowing yourself to like release all of that out of your body, like get that out of your physical container, and like get that out of your cells to allow all of that out. Like for me, like a lot of it was like I had a lot of issues around speaking the truth, so like the word was closed off through my throat. So it was like would be like screaming into like a pillow, like another one for like to open to release it from that way. Like I got be in the water a lot. So anytime I'd feel frustration, I'd get down to the water, and like anytime I could literally dive under the waves and like just let the biggest roar out in the waves. Just
Wow.
it was
Okay.
just a control way of just releasing and expressing that. But as you do that more, it's allowing you to actually feel that build up, but then allow that to move through you, rather than holding it in. Like rather than holding it into your physical, because if you hold it in, it's going to either manifest in physical pain, physical tension, or it's going to manifest in you projecting it on someone around you in an unhealthy way.
Wow.